Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to this community showdown. It's going to be the Tomb Kings led by Catholic Alcoholic facing off against the Vampire Counts, who shall be helmed by a Scander here on the road to Talabheim, and it looks like a bit of a monster mash. We do have Settra on the Sphinx, as well as the big Necrosphinx Arwar facing off against this Strigoi Vampire Lord, who's very good. A solid anti-large character, has self-healing. He's not messing around. So for the Tomb Kings army here, like I said, it's going to be monster mash. So we do have Settra on the Sphinx. And the Camarine War Sphinxes were one of the biggest winners of the most recent balance update. They got those impact hits. And for some reason, I mean, a bunch of monsters got impact hits, but these Sphinxes really just wreck shop. When they get in there, run into infantry blobs, man, they do a ton of damage. So Settra has become pretty meta because he can ride one of these things, and on top of that, he is also a spellcaster. So it kind of saves you from, if you were to bring a Tomb King, for example, you'd have to, pay for a Lich Priest too, and ultimately, I do think that Settra is a little bit more cost-effective. On top of that, we do have the big Sphinx of Usakfir. This thing is pretty sweet at fighting big monsters. Anti-large, armor-piercing, and against Vampire Counts, it does do fire damage, which is sweet. Magic damage, isn't useless against Vampire Counts. They do have a couple Ghost units, so having that extra magic damage doesn't hurt. The rest of the build here, it is going to be Nehekar Warriors, backed up by some Tomb Guard, and the dreaded Pencil Formation. So yeah, the Pencil Formation, it minimizes your frontage of your formation, so it does make you take less damage, but your damage output's going to be way worse. But overall, against Vampire Counts, I don't really know if you need to do that since they're going to be using zombies, although if they are Graveguard heavy, maybe so. So looking at the forces of a Scander here, it is going to be a Strigoi Ghoul King, and he is going to be rocking not only a sweet anti-large bonus with poison, and poison is especially good against big monsters, right? Because it's an overall percentage-based debuff, so you're getting a lot of value when you're poisoning big monsters. He's got Spirit Leech, Gaze of Nagash, so really good sniping abilities, as well as a Breath Attack. Yeah, great character. This is the OG Strigoi Ghoul King, not the Strigoi Vampire Lord, which does have the self-healing. It got him a little bit confused there. I mean, he does heal, of course. He's got the regeneration here, so... the rest of the build here, it's going to be Zombie Nation, backed up by Graveguard. Graveguard are pretty damn solid here. They pretty much dominate most Tomb King's infantry. I think pound for pound, a Graveguard, the only thing on the Tomb King's infantry roster that could beat them would be a Arwar, Kepler Guard, which is like a lot more expensive. So Graveguard are great. We got a Corpse Cart, some Crypt Horrors, and double White Kings. Scab's Grace is gods here in this matchup, being able to drop those fat Scab's Grace and melt those lightly armored infantry, especially fire damage, magic damage too, is quite nice. But we do have a little bit of sniping going on here. Strigoi Ghoul King looks like he did use a Spirit Leech on Settra while we were rambling over there. Tomb King's army going to be surging forward towards Objective 2, and on the outside we do have the Nehekar Warriors and Skeleton Warriors getting ready to party. So obviously it's going to be a fight on Objective 2 here. The Vampire Count's probably going to be securing this far side point, and then I would imagine just sprinting on over and getting their Graveguard in there. Sweet bump and grind here. So it looks like Settra is going for a freebie. The White Kings don't want any of that smoke, and they're going to be running back into the trees, letting the haggard zombies take the beating for them. So the zombies do surge forth, the undead pouring into this lovely realm. On the backside, we have double Crypt Horror? No, just Crypt Horror and, oh wow, a flank from the Sternsman. Okay, I didn't expect that. That's actually not a bad idea. Although Tomb Kings can respond pretty quickly, although they don't have like one unit that counters both of these things. So perhaps, yeah, this is going to be a nasty little push here. For sure should be able to push off these skeletons off that point over the course of a long game. So here comes the battle. Armies lining up. Big monsters getting excited, and we do see skeleton chariots being called in. So they've been making a bit of a comeback in the old update. Chariots got buffed too in 5.1, right? But yeah, you can see Settra getting in there, melting. The initial impact went to the Tithe and did actually take out like 40 zombies or something, which is pretty nuts. But he also gets into the Graveguard and does nice damage. And man, look at the Sphinx! Oh my god! Oh, the fire damage. Yeah, look at that, getting in there. It's weak to fire, so this thing is just doing like 800 weapon strength to it. Oh my god, that Corpse Cart got annihilated by that Sphinx. That is an unholy beatdown right there. Well, I guess it's more on the holy side of things. Tomb Kings are certainly, I wouldn't say they're like unholy. I mean, it depends on who you're talking to. The local witch hunters might want to disagree, but they're more in the kind of neutral side of things, whereas Vampire Counts are truly unholy. So Chariots getting in, going to be running over zombies, so the zombies going to get pounded by the Chariots, but countercharged by Crypt Horrors. Of course, the counter against Chariots in this game is going to be Mass, so being able to block them up with any Mass is really going to mitigate their damage. And another Gaze of Nagash, looks like an Overcasted one. It's a really good sniping spell, and it's actually quite good against even non-SEs. If you use Gaze of Nagash down the side of like infantry or something, it can do work. So the Pencil Formation has engaged. 3 units of skeletons are duking it out here, and Tomb Kings are overall probably happy with this grind. They can now commit the Big Sphinx if they want to. Beautiful Scab Scrape. Man, that is such a good item. It's insanely good against Tomb Kings. Against light armor especially, and Tomb Kings don't have too many choices in that regard, right? So Big Sphinx moving in to battle the Crypt Horrors, and here we see Settra detaching to go after the double White Kings. A very dangerous position though, because if the Strigoi Ghoul King comes over here, rear charges Settra while he's tied up with the 2 White Kings, he could definitely start fighting a losing fight. And on the outside, we do get the flank coming in, so the Cryptors move in to do glorious battle, but they do get ambushed by the Eyes of the Desert. A really nice choice. They do shoot freaking laser beams out of their eyes, and they are melting these Cryptors, and honestly will put up a good enough fight against Stearnsman, although they probably wouldn't win that over the course of a long grind. But if you just get the Eyes of the Desert to come over, rear charge these Cryptors, kill them, they could then 3v1 the Stearnsman and probably take them on. Now back in the epicenter of action, we do have the Nehekar Warriors hanging out on Objective 2, anchoring that one. The Vampire Count's trying to get a big envelop, trying to make as much contact as they possibly can with their good quality troops. Meanwhile, old Settra the Imperishable here going to be getting hit with the Spirit Leech and Poison as well. This is not a good situation. Cryptors have good mass, poison, and armor piercing, so they are able to lock Settra down pretty bad, and he is getting karate chopped by the flying jump kicks of the White Kings as well. This could be a big game-changing moment here in this Duel of Fates. If Settra were to go down, that would give Vampire Counts a massive leg up, which they certainly need, considering that their little gambit over here didn't go super well. So we see the Cryptors going down, Black Knights coming in. Black Knights, they don't do great AP, but on the charge, maybe they'll do some damage. I don't think these guys were braced for the charge because they were being attacked in the back by the Stearnsmen, but even still, yeah, we're going to probably see the Eyes of the Desert endure here against the Black Knights, who like to rely on that bonus force infantry, and I think the Vampire Counts are fighting a bit of a losing fight over there. However, talk about a winning fight here. We do see the big Sphinx being thrown in to save Settra. Settra gets away with 900 HP, negative 22 leadership. Most likely going to crumble. There's a small chance he can stabilize if he can kind of get away from this situation. If he starts spamming spells too, it will proc the Restless Dead, which is going to be healing, and maybe the army ability can go off as well, but I think Settra is done for. Yeah, he took a huge beating from those big undead monsters on the other side, or the undead monster. A Gaze into Gash coming from downtown, and Settra the Imperishable does fall, taken down here by the Strigoi Ghoul King. Brutal shot right there. Now, can the Tomb Kings pull this one back? Certainly two top-tier players here. We're going to see if they can make some magic happen. Stearnsman just grinding against multiple units and potentially finding a way to win that. We do see the Feasters and the Dust coming in as well, and the Black Knights swarming. It's starting to look a little bit dicey here for the Tomb Kings. Granted, they do have a big scary monster still on the table, but he's a little bit trapped up and surrounded by these Cryptors, and there's also the White Kings working on him. But yeah, he's the one monster who's been doing a lot of work this game, and I could attest. I run these things in tabletop. They're freaking sweet. The Necro Sphinxes in tabletop are amazing. Really, really good monsters. I think one of the best monsters I've encountered in tabletop. So in tabletop Warhammer Fantasy in the old world, the most powerful monsters are the ones ridden by characters, because they can be augmented by magical items. So like the magical item doesn't just affect the character, it affects the mount too. So if you're giving like a mounted character ward save via an amulet of protection or whatever, it affects the monster. So that's why like mounted monsters in old world are a little bit problematic. Regular monsters aren't really. So if we're talking more like fair monsters, I would say that the Gorgon for the Beastmen is one of the best ones in the game. It's really good. It hits super hard, has Killing Blow and Monster Slayer on all of its attacks, which basically insta-kills various targets it's hitting. It's super good. Anyways, rant for another day. So the Necrotect is a staple of competitive Tomb Kings play. The reason why is because his item, the Vambraces of the Sun, imbues a huge weakness on the target he hits. Not only does it do flame damage, but a massive stat debuff. So pretty much an auto take here. So Catholic is trying to get away with that, while the Strigoi Ghoul King doesn't want any of that. And honestly, if he just uses a Gaze into Gash, it'd probably almost kill that guy. But the Tomb Kings do still have a massive superiority as it pertains to the infantry. They have a lot. And the Big Sphinx is still going strong. I wonder if we're going to see a resummon of Settra. We see Catholic banking 1200, which makes me think Settra is going to be resummoned. And that's very lore friendly too. Settra, you know, all the Tomb Kings have died at one point or another, and then the Mortuary Cult's like, all right, it's round 2, let's go, let's bring you back. And yeah, it's one of the few times Lord resummoning in Dom actually makes a little bit of sense with Undead, that is. But here we do see the Sphinx trying to hunt down the Strigoi Ghoul King. Not going to be an easy find. Let's go ahead and assess the infantry quality here. So Tomb Guard looking pretty numerous and healthy. We do see the Realm of Souls proccing and healing the army. As far as Collins, it is going to be Black Knights, but they're not going to be very good against Ushopsi. They'll do okay against Nehekar Horsemen, but yeah, it looks like Vampire Counts are very bare bones in the infantry game. Looking at the objectives, we do see the current score massively favoring the Tomb Kings, but the Vampire Counts certainly, I would say, have the advantage overall with their Strigoi Ghoul King being alive and the White Kings and whatnot, but like it's not by that much. The Sphinx is still around, and he's able to keep that big monster honest. Ghoul King over here going to be landing to try and win on this side. Meanwhile, Necrotect on the Chariot's going to come in, and you'll see it. Look at the stat line. So it goes to 8-1. That stat from the Vambraces of the Sun, absolutely nuts. Meanwhile, they are going to be stabilizing this objective, which is very, very big. It looks like the Vampire Counts almost stole that, but they moved off it, which is going to give the Tomb Kings a little bit of time on that. Nehekar Horsemen charging into the Haggard Feasters in the dusk here with the Vambraces of the Sun. Meanwhile, the Strigoi Ghoul King, is he getting his prize? It looks like he's a little bit trapped up on some of these horsemen, still able to get some kills there. And now come the Black Knights. This objective should flip. It's very, very close here, but I think the Vampire Counts have a lot of cap weight between these Crypt Ghouls and the Black Knights, who are 4 cap weight themselves. On the middle, we do see the Tomb Kings barely holding on, but they do have the cap weight disadvantage. And oh, the King is back, baby. Settra the Imperishable returns from his crypt or tomb. It's probably tomb. There are the Tomb Kings after all, so it's going to be a tomb, I would say. But Settra is going to be hustling across there, so he's looking to get that sweet impact hits, and that's kind of the thing. Tomb Kings, I mean, have some good tools against infantry, Ushapti and Screaming Beam catapults, but he's so cost effective. Not only can he massacre these White Kings, but these Graveguard are going to get the dirty. You guys will see here in a second. It should do some pretty good damage. Yeah, he gets in there, and that's just like the impact. And once he starts getting his auto attacks here, you can see the Graveguard are going to start crumbling. He's going to continue on, and hey, you know, Iskander didn't hear no bell. He's going for round 2. He's going to try and take down Settra for the second time here in this game. And we'll see if the Tomb Kings allow that to happen. But the Vampire Counts do get a triple cap, ladies and gentlemen. Skeleton Horsemen going up to try and ninja this point. And looking at the value right now, with the healing on both sides, Tomb Kings do have a lot of healing via Realm of Souls. So their whole army is going to be getting healed by 0.2 every time this procs, right? So it's pretty fat. So they're going to get a lot of heals across the board. And here the Sphinx is going to be chopping into the Black Knights, getting a nice kill here. And Settra the Imperishable using Usirian's Incantation of Vengeance, a very good spell. And really focusing on clearing out the infantry. So I guess even if he were to go down, if there's no Vampire Infantry, they're not going to be able to contest much, right? And look at that. That was absolutely brutal. But the Strigoi Vampire Lord using his Bloodlust, 626 weapon strength with poison, anti-large. Really a character that's designed to fight enemy big monsters. Whereas the Camarine War Sphinx is certainly not as much up to the task there. So the big Sphinx moving in to counterfight. And it does not hit the Strigoi Ghoul King. He's able to endure that well. And looking on the side, they are chased off here, so the Tomb Kings did attempt to do this, and Iskander once again coming in with the dreaded Black Knights. So the Black Knights do move up and push them off. I'm certainly very capable of dealing with those kind of light cavalry threats. Really cool to see the Black Knights being used, and this is a very, very high-level game. Both of these players are, you know, top, or at least last season, were top 16 in the world, duking it out, and of course Catholic coming off a major win recently. So yeah, you guys, if you didn't see the big old championship by now, it's quite an epic one. So Necrotech's running over the ghouls here, and man, the Eyes of the Desert still hanging in there. Tomb Kings might find a way to get this objective back. How much capture weight do they have? Eyes are going to be 3. This guy's going to be 3, and these Crypt Ghouls with their current health are probably like 2 capture weight. So it's going to be a capture weight advantage of 4, which means Tomb Kings will probably get that back. And Settra's hanging in there, despite fighting some hard fights and really struggling to deal with these White Kings. He's doing it, and he has a little bit of support now. He's got some halberds nearby, granted they are crumbling, as well as the Sphinx of Usef here, which is doing good damage against the Strigoi Ghoul King, forcing the amulet, Opal Amulet proc. Not proc, but activated, and does push him back. So, Horsemen here are going to be trying to rush the zombies. Zombies only have 2 capture weight apiece, but it is going to be enough, and they only cost like 100 gold, right? So, 100 gold for 2 capture weight's a pretty honestly good deal. Here in the backfield, we see the Black Knights intercepting the reinforcements. This is a really good tactic, classic RTS stuff, right? Playing Age of Empires, your opponent's, you know, doing it all in on you, and in not Dark Age, but Feudal Age. Use some horsemen to cut off their reinforcements to take the pressure off your base. Very similar tactic here that you're seeing. So the Black Knights here are going to be probably eventually defeated by just sheer numbers. They don't have like the best sustained combat stats. And we see the big Sphinx here actually hunting down the Strigoi Ghoul King. So he's going to be forced to run. Meanwhile, Settra's in a 2v1 versus White Kings. And even though he probably would win that, he would take a lot of damage in the process. White Kings have a very, very good stat line and are some of the better foot heroes in the game, I would say. So Sphinx getting the sweet buff, the Cursed Blades activating the heal. I believe the lore passive doesn't heal constructs though. Let me go ahead and double check this. I think it's just like these skeletons and whatnot. Affects allies in range. Okay, they just need to be undead. Got it. So does this thing have the undead trait? I think it has construct, which is a different one. So yeah, probably only heals like your various undead units, which you know, makes sense for like wider infantry-based army. But Settra might be going to the grave for a second time here today. Looking at the points, very, very close. 947 against 950, so we have a razor-close game here. But the Tomb Kings do have a lot of cap weight reinforcements coming in, and they did manage to wrestle the back objective here. But if Settra dies again, I mean, that could be it for sure. That would be a big blow. This Ghoul King probably sitting at about 2k value, I would wager. Looking, oh my god, I was way wrong about that. 4.3, I'm usually pretty accurate with that, but man, 4,300 value on that Ghoul King. And that's very, you know, consistent for how Vampire Counts play. In the history of not only Total War Warhammer, but also tabletop, Vampire Count armies have often been carried by the Vampire Count, or their lords. Very chaff-centric, zombies, skeletons, a lot of trashy units, and then they win the game with their big scaries, which is very, very cool. So Settra here battling it out versus the Black Knights and also getting a little bit of support from the Eyes of the Desert, but they do break, and the Strigoi Ghoul King's like, you know what, I feel like getting 6,000 value this game. So he's going to be going in with his homies. These are his brothers and sisters right here, these Scriptors, certainly very much in the family. And yeah, you can see 1,800, Settra down to 1,300. Settra probably not, well, not even bad, but considering you summoned twice, that's not amazing. because that's about, you know, he costs in that ballpark, but I don't know if he's going to survive. At this point, I think if you're the Tomb Kings, you have to just like run Settra to the back of the map, right? You run Settra back here and you just kind of loosely cast spells from safety. And if the Strigoi Ghoul King comes after you, you just summon the Eyes of the Desert to kind of laser beam him and maybe screen him out. I don't know. Or you could just stay and fight to the bitter end and try and squeeze out as much value as you can. But 1300 HP is not a lot. But the Tomb Kings do get the objective back. They got Tomb Guard Halberds coming in. A lot of good quality troopers here. Nehekara Warriors, and those are pretty solid mid-tier troops. Also a little bit of cap pressure on the far side as well. So the Catholic is able to grab this. And even after Settra getting whooped on that many times, he's up in value. He's been out trading the Vampire counts as it pertains to the other engagements, like the infantry fights and the cavalry fights and all that. The Black Knight's been getting wrecked a little bit. Settra going to be fleeing the scene, randomly starting to crumble. Is he going to stabilize? Crumbling? That's rough. That could be the cascade that the Vampire counts need. He does stabilize here, but the Strigoi Ghoul King, he wants blood, even though there's no blood here. Just a rotting old decrepit ruler. And here comes the charge from downtown. 700 HP down to 253. Settra is going to be crumbling to dust once again. So yeah, that is. Oh, I love it. The Sphinx like tossing some zombie in the air over in the distance. They have such cool animations. But down you go, Settra. You fought well, buddy. But that is going to be the end of the road for Settra the Imperishable. Round 2. But don't worry, he'll be back. He's got plot armor. He'll find his way back into the storyline. But yeah, can Vampire counts win this? Despite those really nice like Lord hunting plays and Homeboy getting 5,000 value, pretty nuts. I just don't think they can get through the good quality Nehekara infantry. There's so many. And the Tomb Guard and the Scabs Grace were really nice in the beginning. But I think the Black Knights might have been the weak link. They're an expensive unit. They're not super cheap, and they haven't gotten a lot of value. Maybe more Graveguard, you know, could have been a nice addition. I don't really know. I don't play Vampire counts too often. There are more Graveguard coming out here. Black Knights do get a nice little flank charge here. And although arguably Black Knights are probably pretty good against Nehekara warrior units. And now, the revenge of the tomb, the curse of the Pharaoh is coming in. All right, so we see the Strigoi Ghoul King here getting hunted down, taking a lot of damage. He's at 5 leadership. And the Sphinx is a pretty solid counter against him. Not counter, but more of an equal fight of sorts. But he does have a little bit of support via the Horsemen. So trying to hunt that bad boy down. And the Necrotech's still alive too. The Van Braces of the Sun, that would be big. That would debuff his stat line pretty hard. And he's at -2 leadership. He's crumbling. Black Knights coming in for the save. So they do get the fat rescue. White Kings and the Vampiric Cavalry trying to support the Strigoi Ghoul Lord. And it looks like he is going to get away. Tomb Guard Halberds are arriving. And on the other side, we have 2 units of skeletons. I think it's going to be too much. What's going to happen is even if the Vampire counts do manage to wrestle the middle objective, you could see Catholic is a very, very seasoned player. He's going to be protecting his other objective here. So he's moving up to objective 3 with all his units to make sure that he has the Helm's Deep situation if he needs it. And we do potentially see the Strigoi Ghoul King going down as well. The big Sphinx of Busek here, this thing's doing great. And wow, oh my god, 5,000 value. He's doing just as much as this guy is. Damn, those big monsters. The Kaijus are doing great this game, but that's going to be it. GG, well played. That was an amazing game between those two mighty champions. And yeah, talk about big monsters doing work and getting a lot of value. So looking at Settra, he was 3,000, so 1,500 per life, costing about 2,600, so it didn't quite pay for himself, but this thing carried the game. 5,100. It killed the corpse guards, it kept the enemy monsters and cryptors in check. It was the carry for sure. Van Brace's man was good, and the infantry quality always nice, and Sepulchral Stalkers did fine. But look at this, 5,300 here. White Kings, really, really good with the Scabs Grace, 900 and 1,200 value. They only cost like, what, like, I don't know, 700 or something when you get them with their bare bones kit. Black Knights felt a little bit funky. This one did well, but maybe the money would have been better spent elsewhere. I wonder how like a Blood Knight would have done, comparatively speaking. Yeah, Blood Knight wouldn't have been good against a lot of this, to be fair. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you would change with Vampire counts. It was honestly a super close game. I mean, he literally killed Settra twice. More Crypt Horrors, and he had max Crypt Horrors in reserve. Crypt Ghouls, he had the little Golem squad. Vargeist in this matchup, probably not amazing, although they are pretty good at killing. They would have just kind of downtraded into a lot of these spears and whatnot. Yep, hard to say, but well played to both these players. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that one, and we'll see you on the other side.